Have you ever wondered what happens when a picture-perfect life shatters into a million pieces? What do you do when the person you vowed to love forever becomes a stranger, and the life you built together crumbles before your very eyes? This is the story of Sarah, a woman who thought she had it all: a loving husband, a beautiful home, and a future she believed was secure. But a single text message, a moment of weakness, would send her world spiraling into a chaos she never could have imagined. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about the devastating consequences of our choices and the long, painful road to figuring out who we are when everything we thought defined us is gone. Sarah and Tom had been married for 8 years. They were that couple everyone admired, high school sweethearts, who had seemingly navigated the challenges of life with ease. They had a cozy suburban house with a white picket fence, 2 golden retrievers, and a routine that was both comfortable and predictable. Tom was a successful architect, often working long hours, but he always made time for Sarah, or so she thought. For Sarah, a freelance graphic designer who worked from home, the silence in their big house had started to feel less like peace and more like a cavernous echo of loneliness. The little things that once felt like constants, the morning coffees together, the shared laughter over dinner, had slowly been replaced by hurried goodbyes and tired sighs. The distance between them hadn't happened overnight. It was a slow drift, almost imperceptible at first. It started with missed calls, then late nights at the office that became more frequent. Sarah tried to talk to him about it, but Tom would always brush it off. "It's just a big project, babe," he'd say. "It'll be over soon." But one project bled into the next, and soon never seemed to arrive. Sarah found herself eating dinner alone most nights, the second plate on the table growing cold, a silent testament to the growing void in her marriage. She started to feel invisible, like a piece of furniture in the beautiful house Tom's career had paid for. She loved him, desperately so, but she was starting to forget what it felt like to be loved back. That's when Alex came into the picture. He wasn't some dashing stranger she met in a dramatic movie scene. He was just a guy from her past, a friend from college she'd reconnected with on social media. Their conversations started innocently enough. They'd reminisce about old times, joke about their college professors, and talk about their lives. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt seen. Alex listened. He asked her about her day, about her design projects, about her dreams. He remembered the little details she'd mention, things Tom no longer seemed to notice. The daily good morning texts from Alex became the highlight of her day, a small spark of warmth in her increasingly cold world. She told herself it was harmless. They were just friends. But the line between friendship and something more began to blur with every late-night conversation. Alex was also in an unhappy relationship, and they bonded over their shared sense of being emotionally neglected. They became each other's confidants, a secret island of understanding in a sea of loneliness. One afternoon, they decided to meet for coffee. Sitting across from him, seeing the genuine smile on his face as she spoke, Sarah felt a pang of guilt. But it was quickly overshadowed by a feeling she hadn't experienced in years: excitement. The coffee meeting turned into lunch, and lunch turned into clandestine afternoon walks in the park. She was living a double life, and the thrill was as intoxicating as it was terrifying. The inevitable happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Tom had called to say he'd be working late again. The disappointment was so familiar it was almost comforting. On impulse, Sarah called Alex. He was at her door within 20 minutes. They didn't even speak at first. He just pulled her into a hug, and in the safety of his arms, the dam of her suppressed emotions finally broke. The loneliness, the neglect, the feeling of being invisible, it all came pouring out in a torrent of tears. And in that moment of vulnerability, a line was crossed that could never be uncrossed. The affair had begun. For a few months, Sarah lived in a whirlwind of secrets and lies. The guilt was a constant weight in her chest, but the attention from Alex was a drug she couldn't quit. She felt alive again, but it was a borrowed, fleeting kind of life. The fantasy came crashing down in the most brutal way possible. One evening, Tom came home early. He was holding his phone, his face pale, his hands shaking. "Who is Alex?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Sarah's heart stopped. He showed her the screen, a string of messages between her and Alex. Messages she thought were her secret. She had forgotten to log out of the family computer. There were no excuses, no explanations that could soften the blow. The look of utter devastation and betrayal in Tom's eyes will be seared into her memory forever. The man she had loved for over a decade looked at her as if she were a complete stranger. The fight that followed was a blur of shouting, tears, and accusations. Every lie she had ever told came to light, each one another crack in the foundation of their life together. Within a week, Tom had packed his bags and moved out. The silence in the house was no longer just lonely. It was deafening, filled with the ghosts of what used to be. Sarah tried to call him, to text him, to explain, but he blocked her number. Her world had completely imploded. And where was Alex, the man for whom she had risked everything? He was there at first. He held her as she cried, told her they would get through this together. He was the only person she could turn to. She clung to him, believing he was her future, the silver lining to this catastrophe. But the reality of their situation soon set in. The thrill of the forbiddens was gone, replaced by the messy, complicated aftermath of a broken marriage. The calls from Alex became less frequent. His own relationship drama was escalating. His partner had found out, too. Suddenly, the secret island they had built for themselves was being battered by the storms of reality. The man who had been her escape was now a source of more stress and more heartache. One day, he called her. His voice was distant. He told her he was trying to fix things with his girlfriend, that they needed to stop seeing each other. Just like that, he was gone. He ended it with a 5-minute phone call. The man who had whispered promises in her ear, who had held her as her life fell apart, had cut her loose the moment things got real. And there she was, utterly alone. She had lost her husband, her home, her stability, and the man for whom she had sacrificed it all. She was standing in the rubble of her own making. The full weight of her decisions crashed down on her. She had traded her marriage for a fleeting affair, and now she had nothing. She cried. Not just for her lost marriage, but for her own foolishness. She cried in the arms of the man who had been a catalyst for the end of her marriage, only for him to abandon her when she needed him most. The ultimate irony was crushing. She had sought comfort from her loneliness in the arms of another, only to find herself more alone than she had ever been before. This story isn't about placing blame. It's a painful reminder that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Sometimes it's just a different shade of misery. Sarah's journey was far from over. She had to face the consequences, grieve the life she lost, and most importantly, figure out how to forgive herself and rebuild from the ashes. It's a hard lesson, but one that many of us can learn from. Before seeking an escape, maybe the first step is to look within and face the problems right in front of us. No matter how difficult they may be, what do you think? Could Sarah and Tom's marriage have been saved? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if this story resonated with you, please give it a like and subscribe for more content.